Our program today is entitled Downtown Vitality, Where Are We? It's a panel discussion with three participants, the first of which is David Rock. David is a Bay Area commercial real estate broker with over 45 years of diverse business experience in the real estate and food and beverage industries, both as an entrepreneur and a broker. He's principal and co-founder of Bachman Rock Commercial Real Estate company with expertise in both tenant and landlord representation, project leasing brokerage, construction management and consulting. He also is a principal of BT Properties, a residential multifamily property management company. David has provided considerable civic volunteer time and effort, including serving as a member of the Los Altos Citywide Parking Committee, being a board member of Los Altos Hills Little League for the past 27 years, and being co-chair of Los Altos Community Coalition for 3 years. Our next panelist is Robin Abrams, who is a force of nature. Following a 30-year career as an executive in tech companies and almost no volunteer activities, Robin got involved in the community when the downtown was at an all-time high vacancy rate in 2009. She's been an advocate for downtown vibrancy for 10 plus years. She was a co-founder with me of Los Altos Forward, which spawned First Fridays, Community Conversations, Club 55, as well as Community Coalition. Currently, she's a member of Los Altos Women's Caucus, LASD School Finance Committee, and Los Altos Community Voices. She and her husband have 2 grown daughters. Our final panelist is Manik Joshi. He is a longtime retail operator with a long history of continued success in retail sales. He has been the owner-operator of Beads at Beads for the past 30 years, located in the Fremont Hub. This is a store that specializes in the sales of precious and semi-precious beads, gemstones, and jewelry. Manik purchased Gourmet Works in 2021, and he moved to its current location at 334 Main Street location with the addition of handmade chocolates and multiple other categories of items. Both sound like great places for upcoming Valentine's Day. Please join me in welcoming David, Robin, and Manik Joshi for this morning. I'm going to start off by asking a few questions. Much of this is about what has changed in terms of downtown vitality in Los Altos since the COVID pandemic. When I was thinking about this morning, I was reminded that the Renaissance in Florence, Italy, really started because of the Black Plague, the pandemic of that era. And I've often heard pre-pandemic Silicon Valley referred to as the Florence of our day. And so I'm very curious to hear what people think the new changes will be in the Florence of our day post-pandemic. So first question, how are retailers and restaurateurs currently doing? First, Manik, tell us how you think retailers are doing.
Thank you, everybody, inviting me and putting up on the panel. As far as coming to the how the things are going, things are pretty good so far. We had a very good, season. When I say season, I'm talking about the Christmas starting from there. Foot traffic is increasing. People are coming back even after COVID, so that's pretty much. Business is picking up.
Great.
Means thanks to you all guys, who especially all the Los Altos people and neighboring cities who have been coming and supporting Gourmet Works from pretty long time. I really respect and thank you very much.
Thank you. And David, how are the restaurants currently doing?
Actually, it's been an upward climb. Most of the landlords, almost all the landlords, were extremely thoughtful and gracious in terms of doing workouts with rents, rent deferrals and rent, actually often skipping rents for multiple months as the restaurants and the retailers tried to gain ground. And since 2021, the restaurants have had it's been a good run. They would have been dead, absolutely dead without the parklets and the street and the outdoor seating. But having that, even with limited seating inside, everybody first maintained, got back to their original levels and then started growing. So it's a good sign.
Great, thank you. This next one will be for all three of you, starting with David, then Robin, then Monique. Do you feel that the quantity and quality of restaurants in downtown Los Altos has improved from the pre-COVID to now? David?
I do. There's been, by the way, welcome to Scott O'Brien and Mary Prochnow. Scott, they're colleagues of mine and have done we all work together to try to fill vacancies and get, good tenants in downtown. So great that you're here. I think the quantity has definitely increased and the quality's increased. Everyone's aware that the online retail is growing by between 14.5% and 16.5% a year, and has done that since 1996. So it's a constant battle to try to maintain good brick and mortar stores and restaurants. The restaurants that have come in, ASA, Rustic, The Post, those are the three that are most, and Tremonti, they're the ones that are most prominent and most visible, are, in my opinion, a marked improvement over what we had previously. High-end restaurants have never done well in Los Altos. It's a myth that they should come in here. And fortunately, a couple of the high-end restaurants that were struggling were replaced by casual dining and family dining restaurants. And that was a good improvement, in my opinion, in the quality. Plus, good operators, good experienced operators came in.
Great.
Certainly in
Thank you.
terms of quantity, that's what the numbers say in terms of increase in terms of quantity. I think we also need to, as a community, hats off to the existing restaurateurs in terms of how quickly they responded in terms of pickup and especially in terms of outdoor seating. I also, as a community member, I think we have to be careful not to dance on the heads of restaurateurs. In terms of, and what I mean by that is, oh, I didn't have a very good experience, or oh, I didn't like the wait staff, because that could be an anecdote of one, and we have to be careful not to let that become the narrative that's out there. So hats off to the restaurateurs in terms of their response during and just after COVID.
Manik.
Coming back on the restaurants, I keep seeing them. They're doing pretty well, especially the outdoor, the pickups and everything. They're doing pretty good so far. I've seen some new restaurants coming in the area, filling it up, coming up. I think they're pretty good. Since I'm pretty new to the vicinity and seeing the scenarios. So, but yeah, according to me, things are picking up. I'm seeing a lot of people coming up and doing a good business.
Thank you. David, do you have a further thought on that?
Yeah, I did a terrible omission. State Street Market opened, and to me, it's been a rousing success. I was tracking it with Robert Hyman from I was given one of the first tours as it was being built and kind of throughout. And it has been, to me, a big help to Los Altos in terms of quantity and quality. And it's brought people in to downtown who would not be coming. It's first curiosity seekers, and then they like what they see once they get to town. And it's like Aram, Orem rather, the Indian restaurant that's close to State Street Market. It's been another terrific new addition to town. And so in terms of breadth and diversity, State Street gave us a plethora of different food options. So I didn't mean to omit them.
Great, thank you. This next question will be for David and then Robin. What role has outdoor seating played in the vitality of the restaurants during these past 3 years? David?
It's been a lifesaver. It was adopted by towns throughout the peninsula. At first, it was done to do pickup orders, as that was the only thing that could possibly be done. And then as the ordinances, different county ordinances allowed outdoor seating, it gave them the opportunity to kind of get the seats back that they were losing because of social distancing inside. So it's been big. But the other thing I wanted to mention is the ripple effect. Because of the outdoor seating, you have vibrancy. You have people out on the streets in the early evening. And I believe, and we'll find out what Manik thinks about from retail, but from all the retailers I've talked to and the personal service people, having that vitality downtown and people walking around spills over into not just restaurants, but also retailers and service businesses.
Thank you, David. Robin?
When I did my last inventory in 2022, there were over 400 outdoor seats that contributed to that vibrancy that David talks about. There's really two other things that we should think about that outdoor seating played. Number one, it was a living experiment. It allowed us as community members to pilot, to learn how to behave, how to drive, what we liked and didn't like in terms of the outdoor. And one of the more subtle things that outdoor seating plays, it's camouflage, right? And so you say, well, what does that mean, camouflage? Well, the outdoor seating camouflaged a number of vacancies, and no one wants to go where there are vacancies. So for me, outdoor seating also played some significant roles there.
Thank you, Robin. Manik, to what extent have the presence of the parklets had a positive or negative effect on the amount of sales revenue for retails?
Okay, I'm going to say something like, it is a positive thing in terms of you see a lot of people sitting there. As far as my business is concerned, when I see it in my point of view, people just see, oh, it's a chocolate store. So let's go after having a dinner or a lunch, they walk into my store. Hey, oh, all right. But one of the biggest negative thing, what I've been seeing it is something like, parking problem for the customers. My biggest problem, which comes in elderly people who are handicapped or something, they go merry-go-round just to park. That parking spot goes away. It is good, it's bad, but it has both pros and cons, I would say, in such a way. Means if that can be, instead of having a restaurant taking up around 4 spaces, instead of giving them 4, give them 3 space and let the parking come over there, because most of the people, I keep seeing it over there off and on, means it becomes a big line, parking spots, and you just do merry-go-round. Sometimes even it happens with me too. I have to open my store at 10:30. I'm just going merry-go-round. It takes a little time, and it's convenience for a customer who's come. It becomes a little easy for them to do a parking. I think this is what I feel like. Means if it's not required, or we can just cut down on the space. Instead of giving any person 4 parking spots, let's do it 3. Let all the retailers have some customers walk-ins. It becomes easy for everybody.
Great, thank you. This will also be for all 3 of you. How important do you believe it is in terms of future downtown vitality to have permanent parklets on Main and State Streets? You've partially answered this, Manik, but I'll ask you to start with this, and then I'll go to David and Robin.
Like I just said, it is a good thing. It means it gives a little boost even for a small retailer like us, like me, or a small any retailer over there on the Main Street or on the State Street. It's good to have it, but till a certain extent. Let's have a good business. Means anyone who's all Los Altos people do understand about this situation. What about the new customers who are coming from Saratoga or something? They're only one complaint. Oh, I wanted to buy, but I have just parked it so far. Means it becomes a little merry-go-round. So that way, can we do online? This is what I have been facing. A lot of customers, they say, do you have an online presence? Can I? Means I don't want to go merry-go-round. They want to have, if they don't get a space, they say, oh, you know what? I will just do it online. Just ship it to us. This is a little problem. That this way we are going to lose our customers, our presence of the way Los Altos downtown is.
Okay. David.
I definitely think they should be permanent. I think they change the flavor, nature of the town. Scott O'Brien will attest to me the biggest complaint we get, the biggest hesitancy we get from people, good retailers, about opening a store in Los Altos is, quote, it's a sleepy town, it's a sleepy village, it's a hamlet. There's not enough daytime population, people working and living there. And having the parklets completely changes, in the opinion of not just me, but a lot of the retail people in the industry. it changes the vibrancy that we have downtown. I just wanted to really quickly address what Manik had brought up. There is the city of Los Altos adopted the citywide parking commission, and then they put it on a shelf. Unfortunately, there's some low-hanging fruit that I was on the commission with Kim. We spent 2 years and probably 2,000 hours working on it, and there could be 22 additional spaces created immediately just by changing where the no parking places are to the correct side of the street, and they could restripe the critical lots that are directly behind the retailers, and it could be done at a cost, including replacing the trees that would not be exorbitant. And to me, it just is, my head pops off every time I think about that study. And it's not pride of authorship, it's what it could do for downtown, just to do the low-hanging fruit in the commission study. So.
Okay, thanks. And Robin, your thoughts on this?
Yep, Kim, my view is it puts community members in a difficult position to choose parklets or parking. And I think that the city should be encouraged to address both of these at the same time, right? So adopt the study or the best parts of the study, and then get a permanent program in place so that both the retailers and the restaurateurs can count on something permanent going forward, but address the stuff together, right? And then put a communications program around it, for Pete's sakes.
Great. This one will be for Robin and then Manik. What role has zoning change to allow personal service businesses on Main and State Streets played in improving foot traffic in the downtown?
I think that likely, number one, likely it prevented some vacancies, right? So as we went into the pandemic, and I also think that now it will help mitigate some of those vacancies that are there. So, you know, again, right, same thing, it relates to the parking study. You know, take action now, right? And then it benefits us going forward.
I totally agree with Robin. You know, that's the way we should all go about it.
Great, thanks. This next one will be for two of you. First, David, then Manik. What trends are you seeing in peer cities throughout the South Bay and the peninsula?
I would say that obviously the most prominent and pervasive trend is outdoor dining and parklets. What we did wasn't unique. It was a survival tactic by almost every city. And it's interesting to see what cities are doing in terms of making that permanent. Another thing is mixed use development. It's a trend that it goes on extensively throughout, starting in, I'd say, Sunnyvale, a little bit in Santa Clara, but Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Palo Alto, Redwood City, San Carlos, up and down the peninsula, that people realize the interrelationship between office and apartments and condos, and brings feet on the street for retail. And so it's a trend to have mixed use development. We have it a little bit in Los Altos on El Camino Real, but you know, unfortunately we don't have it in the greater downtown triangle.
Manik.
Well, again, means I totally agree with David. What he's saying means things are getting onto it. Means I still say peer cities, means it's a mixed kind of a reaction. I would rather say it that way.
Okay. And David, which trends are likely to be permanent, and what are the pluses and minuses in your opinion?
I think those trends will continue, and the positive is it helps to bridge the gap that is lost by online sales. The third trend that I should have mentioned is that many retailers are combining brick and mortar with online, and I think there's no question that will continue. Nordstrom's actually was a leader in this, did it the best, and was the first one to allow you to do returns to the store itself. Then Bezos buys Whole Foods, and it makes Amazon returns even, just as easy. And but retailers throughout the peninsula have an online, a lot of them have an online presence to help with their sales. And the problem is that's both good and bad. And I don't know, when I say it's going to continue, if it is a industry that you really don't need to stop at the store, it can be destructive in terms of reducing the in-store sales. So I think we need, the biggest thing I see continuing is creating mixed-use development and creating more housing throughout. We already have a plethora of office, but we need housing throughout the peninsula to help the brick and mortar retail. And I think that will continue. The state thinks it's going to continue, obviously, because of the housing element. One thing by the way, just to correct, the downtown vision was adopted by the city, not the citywide parking committee. And the downtown vision echoed many of in fact, all the low-hanging fruit from the parking commission was also in the downtown vision. That was adopted by the city, and sadly, nothing has happened with that yet either.
David, for you again, where do you think Los Altos is in terms of downtown rents versus those in Mountain View and Palo Alto?
The downtown, one of the biggest myths that the public has is that the reason that they see vacancy is that the local landlords are quote, too greedy. And that has been a myth that's gone on. I've been doing this in Los Altos since 1992, and that's a 30-year myth now. Los Altos rents are $1. We work in square foot per month, and the Los Altos rents run between $2.25 per square foot on the low side and about $4.25, $4.30 on the high side. They probably, many of them are between $3 and $4 a square foot. Mountain View rents are generally between $4.25 and $5.75, $5.50, $5 a square foot. Palo Alto rents are anywhere from $5.50 north to $7.50, $8 a square foot. So we've always been about 55%, 50 to 55% of Palo Alto. The numbers I'm giving you are a little bit difficult to give you because there's been so few new deals done since the pandemic, since the middle of COVID. There aren't that many comps. But I do know, just from speaking constantly to retailers throughout the street, what the rents are here, and also from being in groups, broker groups, I'm pretty I think my numbers are pretty solid in Mountain View and Palo Alto. And those are the two towns that we're always competing with tenants for, a little bit with Menlo Park. Menlo Park's rents were slightly higher than ours, and they've come down to be similar to ours right now.
Thank you. Robin, I know you've taken a count of vacancies downtown for many years, and wonder what are your observations about the amount of current downtown vacancies versus the amount pre-COVID?
So I'll speak first to, I've done it actually over 13 years, clipboard, touch the data for the last 3 inventories. So, and then I'll talk about the questions that it raised for me. The first takeaway was that there's a significant increase in I'll call them storefront vacancies. To me, storefront is retail and restaurateur, right? Regardless of how the storefront is used. So there was an increase in storefront vacancies in high traffic areas. I was surprised that there was an increase in side-by-side storefront vacancies. So there were, when I took this in 22, there were 3 side-by-sides. Now, why is that important? For those of us that aren't in that real estate business, a number of years ago, I had a commercial realtor tell me we call those rotten teeth. Right. So in other words, if there are 2 storefronts that are next to one another, for someone coming to look at a downtown area, the rotten teeth don't look so good. Right. And so we should, as community members, we should think about that. The surprise to me was a significant increase in second floor office vacancies. So again, right, no, I suppose no surprise from a COVID standpoint, everybody, not just big tech workers, but everybody was working from home. And then of course, outdoor seating. So those are the takeaways. I won't go into the numbers. I've got the numbers. And again, I don't even pretend to be an expert. I just go through with my little Roman numerals up and down every street, and first, second, third floors were appropriate. So for me, the big questions were, are the second floor office vacancies going to become permanent? And then how do we understand what the impact as a community, how do we understand what the impact on storefronts, retail and restaurateurs of those vacancies? Is there a way to make it an opportunity, not a curse? Can the parklets play more than a camouflage role, right? And of course, we've talked a lot about that today. And then how do we mitigate further side-by-side vacancies, right? Is there things that the community can do to help that? And then lastly, we need to, as a community, I think we need to think about this current economic downturn. I'm a proponent of one never wants to waste a perfectly good crisis. So if we're going into an economic downturn, how do we think about making hay while the next 18, 24 months transpires? That's it, Cam.
Great, thank you, Robin. David, what are your observations about the amount of current downtown Los Altos vacancies versus those in cities of Mountain View, Palo Alto, and Menlo Park? I think you may be muted, David.
We're running, Los Altos is probably worse than Palo Alto, and it is better than Menlo Park. Santa Cruz Avenue, Menlo Park is beset with more vacancies than we are. And I'm talking about retail and services, not necessarily about offices. And Palo Alto has University Avenue will always get somebody falling off a turnip truck, convinced they just need to throw a store up and put money behind it and it'll do well. So every time somebody goes out of business, frankly, I do mean to be sarcastic. Somebody new comes along and the landlord just grabs for the money and puts them in, and then that spins out in 2 or 3 years. If you haven't been to University Avenue, it's a constantly changing. It's almost like going to the movies to see what retailers and restaurants are in there. California Avenue is much more stable. It has a good quality of restaurants. They had a bad vacancy issue, but they addressed that. They've addressed it pretty well. And I think ours has been holding up better than we thought it would, but we still would like to not have any vacancies.
Thank you, David. And this next question will be for David and then Robin. What are your thoughts about the diminishing amount of brick and mortar retail businesses in both downtown Los Altos and throughout the Bay Area? And what, if anything, do you believe can be done to try to reverse that trend?
I think there's no question that entire categories have been since 1996. My goodness, it's almost 30 years, have been slowly but surely wiped out by online sales. Imagine a Hallmark greeting card. You just start laughing when you think about it. But there's many other categories I could go into. The best thing that can be done about it is to do what Los Altos did, which was after a push by many, many people in the community, including Scott, Mary, myself, other brokers, they finally allowed personal services on Main and State Street. And it's, whether it's Pilates, yoga, martial arts, bicycling, etc., that brings people to downtown. I think the biggest thing to do about it is to continue to enhance the downtown of our city and throughout the other cities, so that retailers and restaurants and personal service want to come here, and also to continue to try to get more office space and more apartments. And the apartments are being taken care of in the condos by what's happening, by the state mandating it. So in the brokerage community, we think everything that's occurred on First Street has been wonderful for the retail community because it brings people to downtown. So the more of that, the better.
Thanks, David. Robin, any thoughts on that?
I do. I think that the tools as a community that we've relied on in the past are not the tools that we can rely on in the future. So if you think about the real estate folks that are represented here today, right, we would, as community members, we went, and again, I don't own property downtown. I'm just a regular community member, right? But we would rely on them to, well, David will go out and find a tenant, right? Well, somebody will want to come here in terms of restaurateurs. And I think that type of passive attitude we have to change. And I think that we need to highlight many of the things that Manik and David have talked about here today, right? What are the trends? Where is it likely to go, right? What do we need to do in terms of looking as though we're a more vibrant community? We can't just rely on, in my opinion, the real estate agents to deliver that message. Do we want to, do people attract people, or do parking spaces attract people, right? Where do you want to gravitate? How, you know, I look at the screen today, and for the most part, it's pretty gray hair, right? You know, what role do we want a different younger generations to play? So I think we have to look ourselves in the mirror and as community organizations and think about that. I do think that we need to tackle that issue in terms of second floor office space and those side-by-side vacancies. Even if that's kind of an art program working with the landlord of that particular building, or working with some of the other community organizations that are here on the screen. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Robin. Manik, this next question is for you. Throughout the Bay Area, we see and hear about staffing shortages as a sizable hurdle for retail businesses and restaurants. What do you believe the local experience has been with that? And do you believe there is anything Los Altos residents can be doing to assist in that issue?
Okay, luckily, I'm going to quote my example. You know, yes, there is a lot of shortage of people because of a lot of businesses, a lot of restaurants are gone online. Okay, don't, after COVID, you know, just do a pickup. That's it. Like you name any kind of apps, and keeping the cost low. Basically, a restaurant owner or a person like me would like to do it online. There is a lot of vacuum in the market that, yes, there is a shortage of people. People are not coming forward. Even if you want to do $20 an hour giving them, or $25 an hour going and giving them. For one simple reason, the store owner, they don't want to bring the cost more high, specifically on the expenses. Luckily, I'm pretty lucky that I was able to retain all my employees on the both stores, whether it is a jewelry store or at my Gourmet Works. I keep seeing, you know, some high school students coming in or a college going, they keep coming. But if you want to have a permanent person, that's not available, you know. Those kind of things are not available. People are not ready to come and work. That's what it is.
Thank you, Manik.
Yeah.
David, the Urban Land Institute repeatedly states that vibrancy within a downtown area is created by the synergy of an appropriate mix of office, retail, and residential. Do you believe that there is a sufficient amount of offices and apartment condos in downtown Los Altos so as to effectively support retail businesses and restaurants? And has anything shifted in terms of those ratios from pre to post pandemic?
The ULI studies all show the following percentages. A good vibrant city should have 45% office, 40% housing, and 15% retail, restaurants, and services. Los Altos, when in 2000, as of 2015 and 16, Los Altos had 45% of retail, restaurants, and services, 29% of housing, and 26% of office. I don't have the current data, but I just know sort of empirically in my fingertip, you know, through my hands and fingertips, that thank goodness we have more housing. The housing is going up from the 29%. We don't have more office. That is a kind of a mixed bag because there still are many people working from home or people, you know, working hybrid schedule. So we almost always had all of our office space filled, and it's only been since COVID that we have vacancies in offices. So to me, as COVID becomes like the flu, in my personal opinion, and we move forward, I think the offices will fill up. I still believe we need more office, but we definitely need more housing. Vibrancy comes from feet on the street and from the mix of those three. So it is improving. Thank goodness for the state with the housing element that changed the heights of that allowed the bonus density to have the taller buildings on First Street that had been approved by the first two downtown building committees. And sadly, the third one squashed the height down to 30 feet. But thank goodness the state overturned that. So we need those condos, we need those apartments, we need places for people to live so they can enjoy walking around downtown and buying and consuming down there and helping the retailers and the restaurants.
Thank you, David. Robin, what effect do you believe implementing the components of the housing element will have on the future vitality of downtown Los Altos?
So first of all, I want to hats off to city staff and city council in terms of the quality of the Los Altos housing element. I just think if we look at other cities around us, we owe a vote of thanks of the professionalism and getting that approved in that quality in a timely fashion. With that said, that's the plan. Now the opportunity, in my opinion, is residents. We have to, get behind the implementation of that plan. That's the key, right? And so now all you have to do is listen to David's Urban Land Institute and the relationship, right? It is an ecosystem in terms of the permanent street. So I think it'll be a plus. I think that it's an opportunity to address the implementation of the housing element downtown should create an opportunity for us to address feet on the street and parking and the relationship of those permanent feet to our storefronts, both retail and restaurateurs. So I think we're all going to have to get behind implementing the housing element. And of course, right, I said don't waste a crisis. We should get on that straight away.
Okay. David, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to append my last answer as well as just to get the numbers out there for people to have them. So if people want to give you an idea, daytime population is the term for daytime workers. Los Altos, within a 1 mile radius as of 2015, had 5,560. Mountain View had 13,000. Palo Alto has 34,000. Menlo Park has 22,000. So we have about a third of Mountain View, a seventh of Palo Alto, and less than a fourth of Menlo Park. If the city could, in its infinite wisdom, could think about doing something with changing the heights of the allowable heights of the buildings within the CRS district, Main and State Street, just to possibly have a third floor, that could help with offices. Again, with the idea that the current vacancies will be filled up, and we still need more people on the streets. We're getting more walkers on the streets because of the residential development.
Great, thank you, David. We're going to shift now. Open it up for questions from you all. I know a few of you put questions in the chat, and so if you want to raise your hand, ask those directly so we don't have to read them, that'd be great. And while you're doing that, I noticed that while we were talking, I may have omitted introducing a few people or asking them to self-introduce because I had two screens, I only saw one of them. So quickly, while people are raising their hands, Margot, please take 10 seconds to introduce yourself. You're muted. You're still muted. I'll go to Adele while Margot's unmuting herself.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Margot.
Hello, everyone. I am currently involved in the Los Altos Affordable Housing Alliance, and it's great to be here and see everybody.
Great, thanks, Margot. Adele, would you like to take 10 seconds to introduce yourself? I'll go to Liz Nyberg. Liz, are you there? Well,
Yes.
hi.
Hello. Hi, Altos. I'm Liz Nyberg. I'm a member of the Los Altos Property Owners downtown and very active at the History Museum. I'm glad to see Gary put out the grand opening is February 11th. You all come.
Great, thank you. Daphne, you want to introduce yourself in 10 seconds?
Morning. I'm Daphne. I'm with the Affordable Housing Alliance.
Great, thank you, Daphne. And Kim Mosley.
Hi, good morning. Kim Mosley, President of the Los Altos Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Well, David, Robin, Manik, thanks so much for the great conversation. And now we'll go to questions. Again, remember, one question per person, no speeches, please. Sue Russell.
Yeah, I'm wondering if you see the need for a parking structure downtown, if one of the parking plazas is to be used for affordable housing, and if we're going to have a theater downtown, and if you do, how you think it's going to be financed.
David, Robin, Manik, and any of you want to take that?
I'll certainly take the first part. I think, yes, the answer is parking structure, right? I think as a community that will need to be incorporated into any new building that goes downtown.
David, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, I agree. If either of those two events happen, I think that I think that there should be a parking structure downtown. If anyone ever is over in the East Bay to see a good example of what can be done to change a very sleepy downtown into something where people had a problem parking into a good, vibrant downtown, look at the city of Livermore, go to downtown Livermore. They did a very nice, very safe, beautiful parking structure downtown. Also, of course, the two parking structures that were built in Palo Alto under Chop Keenan's lead of the parking commission there at Bryant and at High Street have alleviated a lot of the problems they had with parking in downtown there. I think we would need, yes.
Great, thank you. Adine.
Sue, I don't want to sidestep Sue's issue in terms of stage company, right? Because I think it's a complex question. And I think that it can easily be an answer that solves more than one problem at a time. So it could solve parking. It could, of course, trade one lease for another, right? In terms of the city's responsibilities. And then, of course, right, there are public-private partnerships, right? And so for those people that automatically race to a decision that the city's going to have to fund everything, I say absolutely not. And I say this as a community member. There's no reason that has to be that way. So get a clear identification of the problems that you're trying to solve, both capital and ongoing operating expense, and then nonprofits often have the ability in their communities to rely on communities to help financially solve some of those problems. So I just wanted to make sure as a community we didn't sidestep Sue's question. Thanks, Kim.
Great, thank you, Robin. Adine.
Good morning. So how would, for whoever can answer the question, how would you describe the culture business environment for young companies looking to set up operations in Los Altos? And is that even potentially a priority?
Who'd like to take that? David?
Adine, do you mean for office space or for retail/service space?
More in the office space kind of theory.
I know that I know Scott does a lot of work, in office leasing. I do some. I think it's always been a good place for a company to have, and Mary has a great office center in my mind on Main Street there, where she does have a lot of young companies come in where they just need a place for anywhere from a 400 to 1,200 square foot office. So I think in terms of office, Los Altos is a great place for a young company to start up. A big yes on that one, in my opinion.
So I can speak to that a little bit too. I mean, Los Altos does have a lot of smaller offices, kind of, and then going back to Robin's comment about a lot of second floor offices, right? I mean, along Main and State Street, you've got these older buildings with second floor office spaces, and a lot of them are divided up into sizes anywhere, as David mentioned, from say 200 square feet up to 3,000 square feet. So it does lend to the startups that are wanting to come into town, being in downtown and being able to be over on State and Main, but also there's even a number of options over on San Antonio as well. So there are lots of opportunities in Los Altos for those smaller companies to start up. And I also think, going back to what David said, is from a rent standpoint, Los Altos is definitely, from an office standpoint, is much cheaper than downtown Palo Alto or downtown Menlo Park.
Thank you, Scott. Ginny.
Yes, I wrote in the chat when you were talking about different spaces that yesterday the Community Investments announced that State Street Market would be closing for about 6 weeks to the end of March, and to reset the tenant spaces and invite some new vendors. And I wondered if your comments on that relative to your success.
Any comments from anybody?
Good morning.
I can handle that question.
Hi, Robert. Yes, please.
Robert's here with me.
Great. Hi, Shannon. Hi, Robert.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I would refer to Bruce's article. Yes, so we're bringing in 4 or 5 new vendors. We're changing, and some of you know this already, but we've been in the process of changing the management company for the past few months, and that's now happening.
No, we don't know that. So as a person who was there last week and then yesterday, reading the change coming, it was curious to me. And so I will appreciate reading Bruce's article. Thanks.
Thanks. Marie. I think you're muted, Marie.
Yeah, I think I got it now.
Okay.
You think I'd have this figured out by now, but anyway. So Robin, a long time ago, you mentioned a question that arose from you as to whether office space would continue to be vacant or companies would come back to office space. I wonder if you have an opinion about which way that will go. And secondly, assuming it stays vacant, doesn't that make housing downtown even more important to get feet on the street?
So, Marie, thanks. What I can speak to is many of the companies that I work with are shedding square footage, right? And again, these are certainly larger companies. And then the other piece of that, if I look at law firms, if I look at some of the what was referred to earlier as younger companies, or sometimes retirees that don't want to run their offices out of their home for all kinds of reasons, they're the ones that are looking for those office spaces. And of course, we're very attractive for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which is the rent differential. I think it's going to be challenging to get those second floor offices rented quickly, frankly. And so for me, that absolutely puts more pressure on getting what I call permanent feet on the street, namely those people that from a housing standpoint. So again, right, if I sound like a broken record in terms of seizing on this opportunity of the economic downturn and implementing the housing element, I think it's really critical. Thank
you, Robin. Thank you, Marie. Bill.
Yeah, so probably a question for Lacey, but wondering if the storefront at the corner, which had been earmarked for a coffee bread shop, is likely to see some activity, given that it's not the best look with all the paper on the windows.
Great question. I can handle that also. So the space has been leased to a cafe operator. We've asked them to put a coming soon sign, and I'm guessing they'll put that up within the next month or so. That's our hope.
Great news.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Robert. Mary, you may be muted.
Sorry. Good morning, everybody. So I know the city is working on improving the parklets and the look of them. And I understood that the coverings were going to be removed. And I'm hoping that they can do that before they come to a final decision, primarily because it's my belief that if somebody says to me, you know, there's a great children's store on Main Street and I'm not familiar with Main Street, people often drive up and down the street looking for it, right? Right now, you can't see the retail stores, and I believe that contributes to our difficulty of vacancy. So I would hope that we could convince them to have those removed even as they contemplate the future. And I don't know what anybody else thinks about that, but that's my personal opinion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary. I don't see any other hands up. So if anybody has another question, please raise your hand. In the meantime, we're about out of time. We ordinarily end right at 9:30. But before you go, a few announcements. Our next meeting will be on Friday, February 10th from 8:30 to 9:30. Please join us for a panel discussion titled Los Altos History Museum, sneak preview of the new permanent exhibition with Larry Lang, president, and Elizabeth Ward, executive director. Should be a great discussion. If you'd like to be added to the LACC mailing list, please send an email to info@losaltoscommunitycoalition.org. I think that email is posted in a chat for your convenience. A big thank you to the Los Altos Mountain View Community Foundation for providing LACC with financial and in-kind support. And as always, our thanks to Larry Barron for all he does to help us make the videos of these sessions available on our YouTube channel. Seeing no further hands up, I'll continue here. Please join me in thanking David, Robin, and Manik for a great discussion today.
Thank you.
And I'll one more time mention, as everybody else has, the grand opening of the new museum exhibit. And I'll note too something that Jennifer Springer posted in chat. This should make a great Saturday, February 11th, because you can also visit downtown Los Altos that day from 1 to 3 for Valentine's Choco Stroll. No tickets necessary, just stroll the shops and discover unique gifts and sweet samples along the way. I imagine Manik's shop will be open for that too, since that's a great place
absolutely.
to go for
we are taking bookings for the strawberry dipped chocolates for the Valentine's. So stop over.
Yummy. I see a hand up there, David.
Yeah. Yes, I just wanted to mention in terms of what should continue to help vibrancy. A big thank you to everybody who works on the First Friday program. It's been in my opinion, it's been as well as the beer stroll program. They've both been rousing successes. It is so much fun to come down on that first Friday of the month and walk around town. And oh my goodness, it's just great. So big thanks to everybody on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's it for today. Thank you, folks, for joining us. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Good luck, guys.